you got to have good ear, a good eyes, and then you got to also know how to speak back to people and be respectful of others people so that you can be respected. We actually evaluate human behavior in the organizations, and we actually look for ways to improve motivation, job performance, and anything that can cause some conflict in the corporation and that might need some changes.
Joining me today is Dr. Olga Natal, and she is an industrial organizational psychologist at Natal Consulting Services. So, Dr. Natal, welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me to be here with you guys. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
Of course. So, let's go ahead and get started. Dr. Natal, in the most simple way, can you please explain to me what an IO psychologist does?
What we do is we actually go into organizations. It could be public, private, or any nonprofits, and we actually evaluate human behavior in the organizations, and we actually look for ways to improve motivation, job performance, and anything that can cause some conflict in the corporation and that might need some changes.
Okay. And so, what made you want to get into this career path, and how did you get your start in it?
I love working with people, and I love troubleshooting and allowing people to increase their own personal growth. So by working in different industry throughout my work and career, I was able to see the gaps that were existing in the workforce. So that kind of helped me go into the IO psychology, because it kind of like put all my educational together in order for me to actually pursue something that I wanted to do to help others.
Okay. And so now, what parts of your job are the most exciting or the most interesting to you?
I love seeing the transformation on people and the transformation in organizations. When you sometimes walking into a place and nobody knows anything about a culture, and you come in and you bring your expertise into it, and they come back out of it with knowing more knowledge about it. Or I love it when people can interact with each other when you go into an
Yeah.
organization and everybody's just on their phone and not really talking. So being able to see how other people understand the gaps that are happening in the organization, and
Okay.
using ways and methods to actually increase unity within people within the organizations. I love
Yeah.
seeing that.
Yeah. And so now on the flip side, what parts of the job are harder, emotionally challenging, or maybe just not so fun?
Some of the challenges that I find is those generational gaps. And
Okay.
sometimes, people think differently as time goes by. And we have to educate people in the organizations to know that your skills are as good as somebody else who's younger or somebody else who's older than you. And
Yeah.
you just have to find ways to accommodate those two together so that people can have more fluency and efficiency while they're working. And
Yeah.
sometimes, people just don't want to talk it out. They just want to be either on their phone, or they don't want to say anything. And sometimes that could be a little bit challenging, but at the end, it works out if everybody understand and respect each other.
Okay. And so now, what do you think that people might underestimate or overestimate about this job?
I believe that within time, a lot of people confuse it with roles like around human resources. We can be a human
Okay.
resources manager in our field, but many times we go deep into like why you behaving that you're not motivated to do your job. We use scientific research and methods to actually see what we can do to improve the dynamics of the corporation that are not productive, in order to have them become better for the company. And many times, it's hard for people to understand what we do, because they just think that it's just a new role. But
Yeah.
it's growing late more and more each day, because we look at not just the person, the psychology side of the things, and we use scientific methods to actually improve the situations within the corporation.
Okay. And now within IO psychology, would you say that there are specific niches that people can choose to specialize in? And if so, what are they?
I would say so, because if you love doing talent management, that's an area that you can go into. If you want to
Okay.
be an HR consultant, you can do that. Or if you want to be a psychologist where you're actually doing assessments constantly, you can do that. You can evaluate job performance. You can actually do focus groups. You can actually do individual group assessments in order to actually see what it is that can be affecting or what's working right. Because sometimes it might be everything is working one, it's just a little niche within the corporation that has to be changed. But you could also do the marketing side of research. So there's different things that you can do depending on what you're more happy with, or what your niche is that you are more experienced with. And so depending on the organization, and that's why I love this career, because within the actual protocol of being a psychologist, you can go into any industry and do the same thing. It just varies from industry to industry. But if your expertise is in management and organizational development, then you just do that. So it all depends from side to side.
Okay. And could you give me a little bit of insight on some of the employers of this industry or of IO psychology?
You have a lot of organizations that actually go into the field, like you have a lot of consultants, but you also have like organizations that are big and they actually come in. I can think of Deloitte is one of those companies that actually go into one of the organizations and they go from side to side looking on how they can make better decisions for have better return on investment. And with them, there's a lot more that actually do the same thing. But because the IO psychologist is evolving and growing, a lot of people think that is not what they're looking for in the industry because they don't know about it too much. But it's been around since 1940s and with the military, but you have different organizations and they actually expertise like in human resources management, talent management, and they actually combine that with the other areas within the organization, and they try to put it together to actually become real big on what they do. And so it all depends on which agency you go with. They actually expertise in some niches too. So you just gotta go organization by organization.
Okay. And so now, how do you see the industry evolving in, say, 5 to 10 years?
I just read an article recently because I thought that it was stagnant after COVID, and because people didn't want to spend the money because it could be expensive for an organization who's small, and it could be that they had the budget to do it, but because after everybody got hit with the COVID at that time, everybody's just watching their budget. So in the industry, you could go in and you can actually, sell your product or be a consultant and actually help somebody. And it all depends on how much budget they have in order for them to do the actual work. And so it can range from place to place. And sometimes one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of the organizations are watching their budgets so closely that they're being kind of like, I'm going to say practical about it, for lack of better words, because they want to make sure that whoever they bring into the organization is really going to help them out. We have a lot of people in organizations that are moving from job to job too fast, and that's causing organizations lose money. So what I read was that it's growing like in a 20% every year as people are knowing more about it, because we go in, we look at the issues, we come up with solutions, and we help the companies maintain their return on investment. So it's rapidly because there's more interest on it after COVID.
Okay. And so now, according to Google, the average salary for an IO psychologist is about $110,000. So from your experience, do you think that's accurate? What do you think about that number?
It all depends from state to state. And it all depends on your experience, and it also depends on your actual, degree. If you have a master's degree, you can earn as low as 65 with no experience. If you have a doctor's degree, you can earn as much as 250, and all depending on how long you've been in the industry, and depending who you're working with. So if you work for like one of the companies we just talked earlier, they pay really good for this, but you have 100% traveling. So it all depends on the job descriptions that you have and the environment that you work in. It's so good that you asked about that, because in the industry in IO psychology, you have to have experience with it. If you don't have experience and you only have education, you're not going to get the top of the market market value of
Okay.
what you're worth. And so that's one thing I always advise people, just to make sure you get an internship or you follow somebody, you shadow somebody in the industry, so that when you actually go in and you apply, you have the two together
Yeah.
to get better
Yeah.
pay.
Okay. And now how do you stay updated with the latest developments of your field?
I love to go to the Association for Organizational Psychologists, which is SIOP,
Okay.
and it's the Society of Industrial and Organizational Psychologists. You can go in there and they give you the market trends that are happening. Also, the Department of Labor give you the market trends of the industry. And sometimes you
Okay.
got to go outside of your own state to find out what's happening, because every state have different laws and different
Okay.
criteria for different things. Like, for instance, some states might ask you to have a license in order for you to be an IO psychologist. Some other
Okay.
states don't require it. So you
Yeah.
have to be well aware of what are the demands are and what are the requirements in order for you to be more competitive in the market.
Okay. And so now going into kind of your daily work and your tasks, what's your schedule like and what tasks do you spend the majority of your day doing?
I spend the majority of the day doing research and making
Okay.
sure I'm up to date with the trends of the market, and
Okay.
making sure of what changes are happening with some of the laws in regards to work and work enforcement, like a minimum wage, and how they have the top ceiling jobs, how does that work, and the different
Okay.
policies and procedures that sometimes people don't follow properly, in order for me to actually educate people when I come into the different sites, when I come to talk to them about behavior or motivation or performance or social skills, whatever that talk is for that company. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to
Okay.
follow the Center for Psychologists and Association, because they put a lot of good articles of the new trends that
Yeah.
are happening and what's going on, so that when you are coming in, you're not coming blindfolded, and you're able to give some respect to the people who you're talking to, so they know what you're talking about.
Okay. And would you say that this is a 9 to 5 career or are you able to work flexible hours?
You could work flexible hours, but you
Okay.
also have customers who are on a 9 to 5 job or 8 to 5 job. And
Yeah.
sometimes, because you not only work with organizations or group, but you also work with individuals. So if I have an individual who might have an issue and they can't talk it out at work, they might have to call me after hours. So you
Okay.
have to have that flexibility, that you're able to talk to people outside of your norm, because people
Yeah.
have different hours that they work, and you have to be able to adapt to them. I don't normally work Saturdays and Sundays, because I think
Okay.
everybody has some time for themselves. And if I do have at times that I work with people after normal working hours, I make appointments for those, just to
Okay.
give that person that time frame that they need, so that they can speak with me.
Yeah. Okay. And now would you say that there are any busy seasons as part of this job? And if so, what are they?
I would say, because work is so demanding in every in every industry, in every state, in every country, it's like around the clock. You
Okay.
just don't know. And especially if they change policies that affect a lot of people, you're gonna get a lot of like calls, or you're gonna get a lot of questions. So it's like an ongoing job, because you just don't know what the market is gonna bring. Right
Okay.
now we have inflation, so the market is low in terms of how much people can use with their finances. So
Yeah.
they're using all kinds of different ways to actually make decisions to improve their own lives. And so I would say maybe the slowest season is around Christmas and maybe
Okay.
November, because people are just trying to just enjoy the holidays and that after the whole year, and maybe
Yeah.
around spring break too a little bit. But
Okay.
throughout the rest of the year, I would say it stays busy all the time.
Okay. And now going into the specific skills required to get a job like yours, do you think that certain degrees or certifications are truly required to get a job like yours?
It depends on the state and the
Okay.
corporation you're working with. And if you're going to evaluate people behavior and you're going to be more diagnostic, you're going to have to need some licenses and sort of
Okay.
certifications, special certifications to do it. But for the most part, because you're doing with the human behavior in the areas of job performance, collaboration, interaction, job description, assessments, and social skills, and just management, You can actually do that with your degrees from a master's to a doctor's degree. At the
Okay.
doctor level, you do more research methods to actually evaluate the behaviors of what's happening within the people you're working with. At a master's level, you have the same responsibilities, but you don't do so much research with it. You only just kind of like just
Okay.
follow what you learn. And on a bachelor's degree level, you're just learning. They
Okay.
prefer that you have a master's and higher to actually work. And if you have a doctor's, a lot of us, we work in the academia areas because we teach others how to become good psychologists.
Okay. And for the bachelor's degree, would you say that it's just most common to just have an IO psychology degree, or are there other majors or degrees that can also work?
They recommend that you do a bachelor's in psychology, then you could
Okay.
do a master's in IO psychology, and then you can increase it if you want to be both in the academia or the consulting, or as a psychologist, then you have your doctor's degree.
Okay. Okay.
But is the only difference is it's like counselors and psychologists, you have to have a certain amount of experience in the field in order for you to be
Yeah.
more effective.
Okay. And so now, what are some natural strengths or talents that you think would make someone a good IO psychologist?
You have to be a good listener. You
Okay.
have to also be somebody who's flexible and can adapt to change. You have to be a good mediator because sometimes
Okay.
you run into conflict resolution, and you also
Yeah.
have to take attention to detail,
Okay.
because what you might be asking me a question and somebody else might be interpreting it different way. So you
Okay.
have to have all those things, those five components, that you got to have good ear, a good eyes, and then you got to also know how to speak back to people and be respectful of others people so that you can be respected also in the industry.
Okay. And so now, kind of along those same lines, what do you end up thinking about all day, and what are some topics that someone would have to be really interested in to enjoy a career like this?
If you're a problem solver, this is a job for you. If you
Okay.
like change, this is a job for you. If you like flexibility, this is a job for you, because one day I could be working with immigration situations, another day I could be working with just creating a website and
Okay.
on how to market a product. Another day I could just be working on how to go back to school and how to become better in your profession. So
Okay.
you have to have that openness that your day can change in minutes, depending on
Okay.
what the niche and what the need is. And
Yeah.
so for that reason, you have to be open about everything that you like to do. Because, and if you don't know how, just tell the person and refer it to somebody else who might have that niche, because you
Okay.
don't want to consult the wrong way to people when you're actually doing this. It
Yeah.
doesn't look right, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Okay. Agreed. So now, what are some tools or technologies that you use a lot as part of your job?
You gotta find out what's happening with artificial intelligence. It's changing daily. You gotta find
Yeah.
out how to use your softwares, and how one company who might have a lot of cash flow and then one that might not, what benefits can one have versus the other to still be competitive in the market.
Okay.
So you have to know the infrastructure, especially if you're going internationally. What do they need in order to accommodate themselves in the industry so they can be more efficient in what they're doing? So as a person, you have to have the technology that is needed in order for you to have like meetings like we're having today,
Yeah.
in order for you to send information to other people like in zip files. You got to have to know how to do all that,
Yeah.
because it's competitive. At the same time, if you sleep on it, that's it, somebody else is going to get in. And so you
Yeah.
have to know what's happening really fast.
Okay. So now, along those same lines, what do you recommend that candidates that are interested in this job do in order to set themselves apart from other candidates?
They have to go to internships. They have
Okay.
to shadow somebody that knows. They have to really take into heart the actual dynamics of the profession. I would recommend to go to like conventions when there's some. Go
Okay.
read the website. The SIUP website is great. It has all the tools that you need in order to get educated with it. And it gives you like links on how to go about going to one place to another to know more about it. If that's something that you like to do and you like working with people and just changing the world around you,
Yeah.
this is one of the options for you.
Okay. And now, if someone wants to make a pivot from another career into this one, is there a way to get into IO psychology without going back to school?
It's very hard unless you actually work in the human resources department. If
Okay.
you work in the human resources department, some of the responsibilities that the people do in that department are similar to ours, with the exception that they don't do the research methods, or
Okay.
they don't use the theories in some ways if they don't know how. And
Okay.
so, but the majority of the jobs who actually work around that without education will not pay you the same. They start in the
Okay.
40,000s,
Yeah. Okay.
right?
So now, what are some books, resources, or programs that you recommend our listeners look into if they're interested in this sort of job?
I would say register with the Association of Psychologists,
Okay.
register with the SIUP, register with the associations within your state for industrial psychology. Because constantly they're doing a lot of workshops and seminars that where you can go to. If you're a student in college, you could go in, you can actually become a member for free.
Okay.
If you are not in school, then they have membership costs that are very affordable. And every day they're sending out different articles and different
Okay.
research that's happening constantly. Google Scholars, you always put in there, and it tell you what's happening around the IO
Yeah.
psychology world, and then you
Okay.
can get educated with that as well.
Okay. And now, if you could talk to your younger self when you were just starting out in your career, what would you tell
I would say I'm satisfied with what I've accomplished so far,
them? Okay.
because every step that I have taken in my career has taken me to a different level.
Yeah.
And when you see that as a ladder of growth, it's great, because then where you are content with what you're doing. Do I still have some areas that I want to grow more? Yes, we all do.
Yeah.
But I think those experiences that I had in the past, working in HR, working in operations, doing manufacturing, doing trading, it helped
Yeah.
me put everything together to what I'm doing today.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. And now, finally, where can people reach out to you or where can they follow along with your work?
They could go to my website, natalconsultingservices.com, and they can actually, if they need to talk to me for 20, 30 minutes and small talk and then get them started, I usually give back to people, and I give a seed to that, because I know that sometimes people don't have the cash flow to do it, but I help out
Yeah.
in that way. So I give it like a 30-minute
Okay.
consulting if they need it. And the number where they can reach me at is 770-765-3605. And or they can
Okay.
send me an email if they want to also.
Okay, amazing. All right, well, Dr. Natal, thank you so much for joining me on this episode and sharing your experience as an IO psychologist. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You just got one episode closer to learning about the world of jobs out there. To explore the rest of our career categories and find your best fit, go to jobdictionary.com to sign up for the beta users waitlist. Then subscribe here to find the next episodes coming out this week. And as always, drop us a comment, review, or message to let us know how we can better attune our episodes to your specific needs. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Threads, Pinterest, and wherever else you're on socials to go get our short, snappy preview reels that expose you to new job options every day. Because here at Job Dictionary, we believe your big aha moment can be just one scroll away. Go check it out and get out there. Cheers!